This week's guest is Shifu Wang Bo. He's a Shaolin monk from the Shaolin Temple in China, the birthplace of martial arts, where he went at the age of 8 and became a Shaolin Kung Fu master, a Zen Buddhist master, an expert in herbalism. And in 2008, he decided to come to Los Angeles, where he had to learn how to survive. Not only did he survive, he thrived. He trains some of the most famous people in the world. He's been on the cover of Black Belt magazine. He's an influence on my life as well. Please remember to share this interview with your friends and family and enjoy the interview. Well, welcome to You Elevated, Shifu Wang Bo. It is so great to see you here. And, I start off my questions. I'm always curious how people start their day. So what time do you wake up and how do you start your day, Shifu?
Well, actually, I have to say this, Ethan. Congratulations for You Elevated. By sitting here talking to you, I'm already elevated.
Thank you, Shifu.
That's actually true, everybody. How do I start my day? Actually, sometimes I sleep a little bit late, but most of the days I get up very early. So what I do when I get up in the morning, actually, the first thing, I'm not looking at my cell phone. I'm putting my phone away. So my phone normally either turn it off or on the airplane mode. So the first thing when I get up, I give myself a couple minutes to awake. Then I pretty much bring my hands here into my heart. Then I have a chanting or just the breathing for sometimes takes 20 minutes, sometimes 5 minutes. So that's kind of my routine before I'm getting up. So that's what I do, whether 30 minutes or 5 minutes. And sometimes when I want to sleep a little bit more, then that's going to be 30 minutes when I get up. So before my alarm goes on, then I start bringing my hands here, then either do the breathing or the chanting.
Okay, so you breathe, you chant.
They are either breathe or chant. So either way.
And so how long do you breathe or chant before you kind of go, and before you go, I don't know, do you drink tea or what do you do from there?
I'm still in bed at the time.
Oh,
right?
okay.
So
You do that still in bed?
You're still lying down. Your subconsciousness is still trying to get ready. So when I get up, normally, I brew my tea. So drinking tea is I would say 90% of my morning. So I drink my tea. So I have different herbs that I drink my tea. But before I drink tea, I normally drink a glass of water.
Oh, you do.
So
you have water too.
I drink a glass. Well, of course, I drink water.
Well, my great grandmother always said she started her day with 2 glasses of water, lemon water, typically.
Yeah, so lemon water. I don't really put much lemon, but just the water.
Yeah, just for your body.
Yeah, just to flash. One thing for health is actually this thing. We don't really talk about this before. It's actually going to bathroom.
Oh,
pooping.
Yeah.
That's actually one of the best things you can eliminate.
And water is supposed to help get that system moving.
In the morning, especially when you get up, then you drink a glass of water, then it actually helps you.
To get rid of...
To unload.
Yeah. Right, exactly. So we unload. All right, so I'm always curious how people start their day, and so thank you for sharing that part with me, Shifu Wang Bo. Now, I want to get into something. You are a Shaolin monk. Tell me about that. What is Shaolin? How did you become a Shaolin monk? I mean, what is that? I know it from a TV series here in the United States from the 1970s, but I didn't even know it was real until I met you.
Yeah, it was real. Shaolin Temple is a birthplace of Shaolin Kung Fu and Zen Buddhism. Mahayana Zen Buddhism. So Shaolin Temple is one of the most famous places for Kung Fu and pretty much all martial arts, because most of the martial arts that we know actually came from Shaolin Temple. So Shaolin Temple is a dream place for pretty much everybody, because when you watch movies, the heroes. So Shaolin Temple stands for power and positive, then hero, all kinds of these, stands for. So I practiced Kung Fu with my father since the age of 3 with my brother. So my father and my grandparents, everybody in our village actually practice Kung Fu. So in my village, and everybody do Kung Fu. So when I have memory, I already doing Kung Fu.
Oh wow.
So
Okay,
I learned.
so you
but
started at 3.
I start with my father.
Okay.
So we have a different style because Kung Fu has a variety of styles and schools. So we were doing a different style. So at the age of 8, I went to Shaolin Temple. So Shaolin Temple has many schools in China. It's pretty spread out. So then this school actually has a relationship with Shaolin Temple where I'm going to, not too far from my home. So Shaolin Temple will go to this place, then choose the people they wanted. So then after going through, the test, the examinations and stuff, so me and my brother, we actually both got chosen.
Oh wow.
So we actually can go to the Shaolin Temple without paying any money.
How old were you?
I was 8.
8 years old.
At that time, yes.
Wow. So both you and your brother went
Both me and my brother
to what,
went
the main Shaolin Temple then?
to the main Shaolin Temple.
Okay.
So to the main Shaolin Temple.
And Shaolin is not just Kung Fu though. So like you said, it's Buddhist as well. So that's the spiritual or religious side combined with the physical aspect of Kung Fu.
That's right. For a lot of people, they may know Shaolin Temple because of Kung Fu, the physical part of it. But actually, the physical part in Shaolin Temple it's only 1%. It's only like 1% out of 3. So the main part is Zen Buddhism and the herbal medicine. So Kung Fu is just a form to help you to meditate. Although it has fighting purpose, but mainly is to achieve your enlightenment and to have a stronger body so you can actually help people and have more time to meditate.
So, okay, so these things all play together, which is actually what this show is all about, is I want to talk to people. I want to learn how I can live a healthier life, but a healthier life includes things like food, what I'm putting in my body.
That's right.
Exercise, right? So my body is getting rid of waste, so it's developing and exercising, but beneath and underneath or around or through or whatever you want to describe it, the overarching aspect of that is the mind and the spirit, which are kind of 2 in 1, right? So that's the Buddhist side. You talk about the meditating. What happens up here or what happens in my spirit affects what I eat and how I'm able to exercise.
Definitely. If we look at it this way, right? So if you say Kung Fu and martial art is a physical, but it's also called a moving meditation because you're moving, then you don't have time to think. You're punching really fast, you're running really fast, you're moving really fast, you're turning, you're spinning, or you're sparring with your partner, you have no time to think. The only thing you do is react. And that's part of the meditation. Of course, it's very good for the physical exercise. So speaking of the eating part, in the Shaolin Temple, we have, every morning, we don't have eggs, we don't have milk, we don't have this type of stuff. So we have this porridge. It's called the 8 treasure porridge. It's made out of rice, beans, black rice, all of those together. So everybody gets a bowl of 8 treasure porridge, peanuts. So then you eat this soup. It's not really, we have a big breakfast. It's very small. So things we eat in the temple, it's actually, it's not just to nourish your body. It's kind of help you to release from stress and anxiety. And of course, the meditation part is very, very important. So that's what we practice every day.
So, and when you talk about every day at the Shaolin Temple, you're talking about the food that you eat. How much time are you spending meditating? So the physical state of meditating instead of the active state of meditating, which is the Kung Fu. How much of the time are you kind of still meditating versus doing the physical Kung Fu?
We actually we have a different age group, from 5 years old to 90 to 100 years old. So in each age group, the meditation is different. For our younger generation, they actually do more physical. For 5, 6, 7 years old, we make them do more physical training instead of sitting down, because this age of group people, they're having fun. They're having fun, they're good. So they don't have much stress as adult. So they don't actually have to sit down and meditate that much as an adult because their mind is free. They don't have much stress. They have fun. So that's actually what we want. So the older we get, the more we meditate. So we were actually doing 30 minutes to 3 hours between this time. So 30 minutes is from 15 to 25. Then we do about an hour. Then the older, then we do more and more.
So you're saying I should be doing 3 hours is what you're saying?
No, you should be actually doing as much as you can do.
Okay.
Yeah, so between 1 hour and a half to 3 hours.
Wow. So you're saying, so in Western society, for me to sit down and do an hour and a half to 3 hours of meditation is essentially unheard of.
That's according to the temple's rule.
Right.
Yeah, so you're supposed to meditate that much. And of course, some older teachers, they meditate much longer than 3-4 hours because they're old. Most of their happiness actually comes from meditation.
So I want to dive a little bit into meditation with you. I know there's the spiritual side, and I want to understand a little bit more about Buddhism as well from you. But on the meditation side, is the purpose to clear the mind? Is it to calm the mind? What is really my objective when I'm meditating?
It's actually all of them, what you just said. In Bodhidharma's teaching, there's one of his teaching is called 2 enters and 4 practices. So 2 enters, one of the entries is called entry through principle. And the second entry is entry through practice. So entry through principle, it means actually directly seeing the first principle or the original nature.
Oh, wow.
Without relying on words, concept, description, understanding, or any thinking processing. So what that really means is when you say happiness or relaxation, whatever it is, so it's based on the judgment, right? So based on, okay, because I give you something, I make you happy. Because I love you, then you're happy. So the entry of through principle is you see the cause and effect, which means the thing has its own cause, right? So, for example, when we're driving, we see hundreds of things, but that's our entry of principle because we're not making any judgment, and we see and passing. But when I say something to you very mean, and you take it personal, so that's not the first principle, because the thoughts you create is based on judgment and concept, right? Then you're thinking about it in the process, then it turns to a feeling. So in the Zen practice, there's no actually such thing is, okay, so I said something, that thing will make you happy or make you angry, right? It's something that really just has no meaning. Or nothing will hurt you, or nothing will actually love you. So none of those actually exist. Just like you're driving by, then you saw so many things, but you didn't really care.
That's interesting.
So that's what one of his teaching was. So then slowly we practice, and then when people are saying mean things, it's just like you're driving, you see a tree, and you didn't really care that much. And because of the entry through principle, we saw the cause of when he says something, it really doesn't mean anything. It probably just out of his own feeling or his own anger, just like, oh, there's a sign behind it. I look at it, then I see something else.
It's very interesting, Shifu, when you talk about this on how we can, in Western psychology, there's a concept of internal locus of control versus external locus of control is what it's called, where I control how I feel, or I'm going to let an external force control how I feel or what I think. And what people don't know how big of an influence you've been on my life. When we met, if you go watch my TV appearances, for example, kind of before you and I met, and I worked with you some, and I've learned from you, and I watch your videos and everything else, I was more reactive in my TV interviews versus once I started meditating and doing some morning practices that you taught me, people talk about this quite regularly, how calm I am when I'm dealing with people who I probably disagree with quite a bit on some of my TV appearances. But that was what you taught me without using that description that you just gave of those principles. That's what you taught me.
Thank you, Ethan. You were already doing good. Well, I mean, I'm not doing that good sometimes myself. And that's why we practice.
Right.
You know, sometimes the things that I just said, I'm practicing too. And some days I'm making judgment. And all of us, you know, we're making judgment, we're having trouble. And that's why we practice. You know, if we practice every day, then the happiness and the relaxation will arise more.
So if I'm hearing your voice right now for the first time, or I'm watching you and I hear you say, but I have to practice, but where does that begin? How do I practice? What does that look like if I've never meditated before? I've never done any of these things. I don't know. I mean, this is the first time I'm hearing Shaolin. This is the first time maybe the third time I'm hearing Buddhism. I don't know what this means. How does somebody begin this process to start this practice?
Ethan, I think this question is one of the most common, beautiful questions. That's what everybody who's trying to become spiritual or learn meditation, that's pretty much the question people will ask. So instead of I'm giving you the answer of how to practice, now I'm gonna ask you the same question, right? Then instead of you trying to figure out how do I meditate, why don't you just sitting down and ask yourself a question, why can't I meditate? You know, why can't I meditate? Whether it's because of a stress, was it because of stress? If it's stress, why do I have a stress? Then you come up with another answer. It was because I'm not making enough money. So not making enough money, why that affecting me being happy? So you keep tracing the questions, right? Or you can start with the first questions is, why do I need to meditate? Right? So instead of we looking for the answers, because the more we ask ourselves, the actually less question we have. You know, if I say, okay, so then just like you, when you start the elevator to you, I saw that that's very Zen. Why? There's not much thinking involved. You start and you're doing it, and then there may be problems, but you fix it on the way. So in meditation, it's the same way. If we keep questioning, we'll never start.
So I want to...
So that's the question. So to answer your question is, instead of you ask, how do I meditate? How am I going to start? Ask yourself first the question, why do I need a meditation? Right? So then the answer is because I want to relax, or I want to feel happiness. I want to be happy. Then you ask yourself the next question, why do I want to be happy? Then your answer maybe is because happiness feels so good. Then your next question is, why feeling good is so important? So you keep asking yourself these questions until you have no more questions. You're sitting down and you practice, then all the questions will slowly then drop down.
That's fascinating. And so how do chants fit in with that then? So as you're meditating, you often will chant too, right?
Yes. Chanting is actually very powerful in meditation. And we actually chant every single morning, 365 days a year, so non-stop. So we always chanting in the morning. So chanting, and also the sound of chanting is very powerful. So the sound of chanting, it creates a vibration. It's very powerful. Actually, it's a healing for yourself. It's just kind of like you hearing the water or the bird. So chanting is, it's kind of like you're reading a script. It has meanings in the chanting. And also when you're chanting, sometimes the rhythm goes really fast, right? So then sometimes when we chant, you do Namo Hala Dana Dola Ye Namo. So it goes really fast. So when it goes really fast, it occupies everything in
fills the space
in your mind. So all you respond is the sound the healing to yourself. There's nothing is negative than the chanting, and especially hundreds of people in the big chanting hall, then the sound and the healing in the room, and you don't have time to think, because if you think, you cannot catch up with the chanting. You lose track of it.
But do you need to have hundreds of people around, or can you chant alone off in the woods?
Of course, yes. That's what I do when I chant to myself. Yes.
So that's not wrong. No, we did get a question from a viewer. Kim asked about depression, and I want to get into a little bit bigger cultural conversation about this too. So depression is a major issue facing people here in the West right now. It's devastating. It's damaging a lot of people's lives. And he asked, how does meditation, or how do you use meditation with somebody who is depressed or facing depression?
Actually, Kim, I had the same, well, not as depression as bad as that. Back in 5 years ago, I had this problem. It's anxiety disorder. So then I have students ask me, why would you have this problem?
Right.
You know? And a lot of people don't understand, because I practice, I meditate, I do Kung Fu, I do so many things. Then I said, because I'm a human and I was not practiced enough. And that's why I have these problems. So to answer your question, Kim, you have to start from, somehow you have to start. Whether you start from chanting, you start from running, you start from walking, you start from breathing, you start from reading something that make you focus, right? So you have to start. So if you're just thinking about fixing your problems without taking your first step, that's never going to work. If you take your first step, even you're just sitting down and counting from 1 to 500, every single day you do 3 times a day, then sitting down, close your eyes, no matter how hard, then close your eyes until you count 1 to 500. Otherwise, you don't move, you don't stand up. So you do 3 times a day, then to calm yourself down, and slowly you'll be better.
Oh, wow. That powerful, because that's something anybody can do.
Anybody can do. It's the things here, what we're talking about, it's already there.
Yeah.
So all we need is just taking action. That's pretty much it.
So I wanted, if I may, I wanted to go another direction with this too, because when I saw that question about depression come in, one of the things I am concerned about right now in the world, I saw an article about, let me say what it is. It's individualism, hyper-individualism, I think is very damaging to humanity right now. There's 7.2 billion of us on this planet. I saw an article. I see people here in the United States or in the West that are just focused on me. How do I get from me? And I saw an article, and I think of that as a very Western thing, but then I saw an article from the BBC about Jakarta, Indonesia, is sinking. It in the last 30 years has sunk 4 meters. The land itself has sunk 4 meters. So for those of us in the West, it's about 13 feet. And the reason why the land has sunk 4 meters is because everybody, or not everybody, many people in Jakarta are sinking their own wells, and they're pumping all the groundwater for themselves. So an apartment building owner, instead of getting water from the city of Jakarta, will sink his own well, will pump the water out, and because they keep pumping all the water out, as they're pumping the water out, the land sinks, right, to fill the space where the water was underneath them. So now the city is below sea level. And everybody, and so they were asking people, why are you, and they went and interviewed somebody, and he was sinking a new well. He's like, because I can make more money by sinking my own well instead of buying the water from the city. And I think to myself, well, if we all just operate in that way, how do I make more money? How do I get my water the way that I want to get it? But I don't think about what's happening to my city or the people around me, or what's happening in the world around me. If 7.2 billion people just think about what's in it for me, that's a recipe for great disasters that have hit humanity in the past. With what you know and your worldly experience and what you learned at the Shaolin Temple, what do you think about this kind of hyper individualism that is happening? Because you had to think about others at the temple, not just yourself.
Boundary. That'll be the only way we can fix it, right? So you cannot not thinking about yourself, only thinking about others, right? So you have to think about yourself. In the meantime, you have to think about the others. So we got to have a boundary. So for example, if you have one small cup of water and you drink it, if you have one bottle, you take it home. But if you have a lake, you better share it. So that's what happens. When we become very selfish, we have a lake, we take it to our own home. Then hundreds of people need water, and they don't have water. And that's when the problem starts. So if we have a boundary, we take the amount that we need, then we give rest to the people. So if we lose that boundary, then of course we have trouble, right? So in Buddhism, that's what the middle path is. You have to take care of yourself. There's nothing wrong with it. And while you have enough, then take care of other people. If you don't, at least don't cause trouble for them.
So one time you told me a story about an insect bites you when you're meditating. How do you react to that insect biting? So my reaction, I of course want to slap and kill the insect, but that's not your reaction.
There's two reactions. I was actually reading this article from was a video or something. So it's about Dalai Lama. Mm-hmm. So there was a mosquito biting him. He actually killed the mosquito.
He did.
Out of anything, so he just did it. So it's actually all by you. It's if mosquito bites you, you can either kill it or you can let it bite you.
But why would you let it bite you?
So if you, out of your compassion, if you just want to serve the mosquito a meal, and that's your option. Or if you say, I'm going to kill mosquito, you could.
Really?
So
okay.
That's either way. So you take the karma.
I see.
So either way.
But that's the middle path, because sometimes maybe it's okay that the mosquito bites you?
Sometimes, if you think it's okay, if you think I'm okay, then that is okay. It doesn't really matter whether I think it's okay or not. If you think that's okay, then that is okay. If you think it's not, then you kill them.
I see. Okay.
Right? So so either way, so there's a karma behind of either way.
Because I had to kill a cockroach last
Yes.
night. And, I'm not okay with them when they enter my home. I'm always good with like insects when they're outside of my house, but as soon as they enter my home, I actually talk to them and I say, look, you guys, you're welcome to live out around my house, but you're not welcome to come into the house. And if you come into the house, I have to kill you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's I have to protect my family. Let's talk about the Kung Fu side a little bit, the physical side. Right? So, we talk about meditation in our mind and how we set ourselves, and now we get into the physical. And, it's really hard. Most people in the United States of America and in the West as a whole do not even move enough. I mean, the studies show we don't move enough. And I would suggest that starts up here, that we don't even think that it's necessary to move. And that goes back to the meditation, that we have to ask ourselves, why am I not moving?
Yeah, whether you don't want it to.
Why don't want to move? Okay.
Whether there's some other reasons, right?
Yeah, but my body hurts. I don't want to move, Shifu.
Yeah. But either way, either one of the reasons you have, you have to move your body. If you want to have a healthy physical body, right? So this is a physical body. You have to take care of it through a physical way. It doesn't really mean you meditate, you don't eat. You have to have food, because this body actually needs food. So that's what the nature is. You don't want to go against the nature, which is you'll get in trouble. If you say, I'm just going to sit down, I don't move, I just meditate. And even we are in the temple, we move is because if you're just sitting down there and you're not going to get so healthy. Physically, mentally, you're very strong, right? But physically, you're not going to be so healthy. You have to move. You have to exercise. So that's why we have, Tai Chi or yoga or meditation, variety of exercises. So because this physical body needs to be taken care of in the physical way.
do you recommend people try something first like yoga or Tai Chi, or do you think people just go right into Kung Fu? Or, I mean, when somebody comes to you and says, I've really never exercised in my whole life, what do I do, Shifu?
I highly recommend people start with Tai Chi or Qigong. I'm not saying Kung Fu or yoga. No, all of them are good. So if you ask me
Yes, I'm asking you, right?
why, and because actually Tai Chi is very gentle and also very powerful too. And the movements are very slow and purposeful. So when you do things slow, you're never going to hurt yourself because you pretty much use your muscle instead of your joints. You know, in Kung Fu, we do things fast, and sometimes you can get hurt. I personally injured so many times, with punching too much, and kick too much on the wood, on the tree, and punching back. It caused damage for the joints. So Tai Chi is Tai Chi and Qigong is the method that we can practice every single day and without causing any trouble for the body.
So it's really good. Okay. So
it actually makes you sweat a lot.
And that's why I see a lot of older people too practicing Tai Chi or Qigong.
Yeah.
Because they're still able to do the forms. I see it. I go out into parks and I'll see people practicing Tai Chi. And I'm always like, including a lot of older people. That's because it doesn't hurt the joints.
Yes. So when people are getting older, and because they experience more, right? So then they were being young and they do a bunch of things. They got injured, and when they're getting old, they know what is actually good for them. And a lot of younger people, they don't, because they think maybe Qigong and Tai Chi is too slow. Then they go do a bunch of other exciting things. I'm not saying that's wrong, but a lot of these things, when we do too much, we actually hurt ourselves.
So when I had to, before I move on to the nutrition side, because I want to hear about how you heal yourself when you get hurt. We had a listener, Dan, ask the question though. Kung Fu is a fighting style, and everybody, when I was younger, this was always the conversation of this was before MMA, which is the best fighting style. And now we have these fighting organizations where people practice multiple different styles. And I don't believe that there was the one Shaolin trained monk that I saw that does kickboxing. Are you familiar with that?
Yes.
And so, but you don't participate in things like MMA.
I don't.
So what do you think of that? What do you think is like the way to approach that? Because there are people that practice MMA all over California, for example.
That's right.
There's a lot of that goes on. What do you look at? I mean, do you ever watch any of that?
Yeah, well, I actually do. I actually went to Vegas to watch some boxing match, then some UFC match as well. It's actually, if you look back to the history, that Kung Fu is one of the earliest martial art. Pretty much most of the martial arts that we know of now are actually from Kung Fu. So throughout the years, there's a lot of changing and development going through, new styles, and they change it up. They make it much more powerful for fighting. So if you would pick a traditional Kung Fu practitioner and the MMA fighters, and of course the traditional Kung Fu fighters cannot fight with the MMA fighters, because the way we train is only 60% is for fighting. And,
because it's that moving meditation that you talked about.
And 40% is for actually improving your strength. So in order for a Kung Fu fighter to fight MMA, he needs to stop practicing the forms and start practicing applications every single day and sparring with opponent. So what I'm doing in the temple, a lot of times we just do forms, because our mind is not really fighting to anybody. Even though we have partners, we can practice sparring, but we are actually choose not to. So then the MMA was actually based on all martial art, then developed this new skill, and just for fighting. There's nothing for healing. You may kill yourself by not just fighting, just by training, because of too much punching, too much caking. So then you may actually hurt yourself pretty badly. So then you could be a very good fighter, but unfortunately you won't live long enough. So in Kung Fu, you may not necessarily become very top fighter, but you live much longer.
Everything that you learn in the temple and things that you and I have practiced, if somebody was going to attack you on the street, for example, you are fully capable of defending yourself.
Of course, there's different levels, right?
Yes,
Then
exactly.
professional levels,
Right.
then regular people. So regular skills in Kung Fu you can easily use in the daily life when people attack you and stuff. But in order to compete with professional MMA and Kung Fu, you have to train differently.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So let's go back to healing for just a moment. You introduced me to something that's called the Dharma patch. I mean, among other herbs, teas and whatnot that I get from you at shifuwangbo.com. But the Dharma patch, so I have gotten hurt, sports injuries. I have had surgeries. I will push myself too far. Is that a key thing that you have used for healing? Is it eating herbs, or is it putting things like herbs on your body as I'm touching a part where I have a tendency to put the Dharma patch on?
Yeah, well, I actually do a variety of them. Speaking of a Dharma patch, Shaolin Temple has a lot of product, herbal products and then training product and stuff. So Dharma patch is one of the products actually I like the most.
Yeah.
And also I use it when I was since a little kid in the Shaolin Temple when we train. So Dharma, because we have injuries, sometimes we run too fast, then we're sparring, then we get hurt. So Dharma patch is the patch that we use for pretty much a lot of injuries in the Shaolin Temple, whether it's broken bones or sprain your ankles or sprain and all kinds of problems. So then I think Dharma patch is very effective and also is herbal based.
Yeah, so what is it again? Tell me about that.
It's made with 17 natural herbs, such as saffron and such as lily flower and pepper and menthol. Then there's a couple. There's 17 of them. So I'm when you ask me, I kind of like all of a sudden I lost my list. But I always know them in Chinese. But some of them in English.
Tell me a couple in Chinese.
It's pretty hard. It's kind of like this long,
Yeah.
like a dangui, right? So dangui like a shen. Shen is kind of like a ginseng, but it's not really like a American ginseng. So, and each of these herbs actually treat for, it's actually to make the qi flow. So when the qi is a flow, then the pain will be slowly, gone.
So tell me about that. When we say get the qi flowing, like I do acupuncture, you and I have talked about this. I'll do acupuncture and cupping and stuff. That brings the qi to the area that needs to be healed. Am I explaining that right?
That's right. So when we have an injury, then the qi is not going through, right? So the blood will accumulate there, and then the qi is not going through. So that's what the herbs actually will penetrate the injured area and then make the qi go flow.
Yeah, I can tell you that the Dharma patch works differently because I've done, here in the West we have icy hot and Bengay, and we have all these different things that I've tried before that don't quite work, right? And then that very first time I tried that Dharma patch, it took about 30 minutes and I could feel it going really deep, like in my body. It was very, very different. So that's what you're saying is this combination of herbs with the menthol and the pepper and all these different things. That's what it's supposed to do, and it's pulling the qi into where the energy is. That's
right. When you actually try the other product, sometimes they don't actually have enough herbs. But when you see Dharma patch, there's actually a dark circle on it. So those are actually all herbs, not just that you brush a thin layer of herbs, but you actually have a big thick layer of herbs on it.
So what about ingesting those? So food, right? Nutrition, what we eat. I know that you're very much into that. You talked about the kind of the porridge that you guys would start the day with, the small bowl. You call it the eight treasure
porridge. Yes,
porridge. But what we eat has such an impact as well too. And you talk about herbs that we can eat for many different reasons. And you have the different teas. We're supposed to drink a different tea each month depending on the weather Tell me a little more about that. Well, Shifu, we're going to take just a little momentary break and get a word from a sponsor.
Okay, perfect.
All right, now we're back with Shifu Wang Bo. Shifu, I wanted to get into herbs for just a second, though. So nutrition, right? I mean, this is such a big topic, what we're putting into our bodies. First things first, though. I mean, do you care about things like organics? I'm just really curious.
I do. Yes.
So it matters when you go shopping, you're looking for organic whenever you can.
Yeah, so most of my food I eat is organic, but sometimes it's still non-organic.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's just based on availability, and sometimes it's the money side of it. But what about herbs? What you studied herbs at the Shaolin Temple?
Yes, herbs in the Shaolin. Well, let me tell you this way then.
Yeah.
Shaolin Temple located in the central of China. So central China, we have 5 big mountains. So central of China, we have a Songshan Mountain. So that's one of the biggest mountain out of 5 famous mountains we have in China. So in Songshan Mountain, we actually have a lot of natural herbs. Like reishi mushrooms and jujube. And
reishi mushrooms grow right there?
If you go to Shaolin Temple, Ethan, sometimes you may see one. Just around the behind of the temple, there's reishi mushrooms.
What are reishi mushrooms good for?
So reishi mushrooms are actually good for so many things: anti-aging, anti-cancer, so giving you energy, anti-immunity, so give you immunity. So I would say reishi mushroom is not quite the king of all herbs, but it's a little bit below of the king.
What is the king of all?
Ginseng.
Oh, that is okay.
Ginseng is one which is very powerful, but it's actually sometimes when we say the most powerful herbs and the less powerful herbs, it really depends on what you need.
I was just going to say that because there have been times for me where ginseng hurts my stomach.
Yeah, it may be. So it really depends on what you need. If you want to live longer for longevity, right? So you need some powerful herbs, and ginseng would be very powerful for you to take every day. Okay. You take a little bit every day, and also reishi mushrooms as well, yeah. Right? But what if you need something else? You may have to look for other herbs as well.
So how do you determine what the body needs? Do you guys do some kind of an exam? I mean, again, like an acupuncturist does like the 3 pulses check on me. What do you learn, or what did you study at the Shaolin Temple?
Those 2 things actually are the ways, but one of the important way is you can tell yourself.
Listen to my own body.
Exactly. So we have our body will signal us. For example, you are thirsty, you need water. You're hungry, you need food, and the doctor's not going to be able to tell whether how thirsty you are. You're this much thirsty or this much. So your body actually will signal yourself. When you actually need something, I mean, a lot of animals has that instinct.
Right.
When they need a grass, we see dogs just eating grass. We see cattle eating grass because they need it. They know they need it. And our body has that instinct as well.
But we have to tune into that, though. And again, we're programmed here in the West not to listen to our body. That is something I had to relearn how to do that because we're taught not to listen to it. Here's what you're going to eat. Here's our food pyramid from the government. Go get your vaccine. Go do this. I mean, get this shot. Take this pill. That's what we're told to do, not to listen to our body.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And because of so many people tell us what to do, and we forgot that we actually have the ability to decide what we want to do. I think both very important. Gather enough information from the knowledge part, from the professor's part, from doctor part. But also in the meantime, we have to be able to decide ourselves. It's kind of like what we talked about earlier. Instead of you questioning about everything, just question yourself. Okay, so I'm thirsty. What do I want to drink? My shoulders hurt. What do I need? And sometimes based on the knowledge you may come up with some answer, but without the knowledge, you may come up some answers too.
So do you think this kind of, to go all the way back to meditation again then, isn't that the point of, or part of the point of meditating is so we can hear ourselves?
Exactly. The point is that we have the ability. If other people who is telling us what to do, if they have the ability, we also have the ability to.
That's powerful. I know, like for me, cashews, I always hated cashews. I never knew why. And I did a blood test that showed I had an immune response, a very significant immune response to cashews, which said my body doesn't want me eating cashews. That's why I never liked them.
Yeah, yeah. And right, sometimes and now we have the options. If there's something you don't know, then you go ask, right? You don't want to go ask on every little single thing, but there's certain things you don't know, you go ask, right? But there's a lot of things you know, and we just never actually ask ourselves.
That's powerful. Well, this is one of the reasons I invited you in to talk to me today, Shifu, is because you have answers on a lot of things that we don't understand. I'll have you back again because I have 100 more questions for you. But again, we can find you at shifuwangbo.com. You have videos, the Dharma patch is there, your teas are there. You have a beautiful tea set that I love and in my home as well. So many different things, right, at shifuwangbo.com.
Thank you very much, Ethan. I'm so honored to be here.
Yeah, Shifu.
Every time. I'm always happy to see you, Ethan. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Shifu. Would you be willing to do us a favor? Please subscribe to the channel and share the episode with your friends and family.